Hi everyone, this is Balázs from RacingBrick. Today's LEGO icon set is unusual for several reasons, and only one of them is that it's based on a movie that hasn't even been released yet. This is set number 11389, Project Hail Mary. If you are not familiar with the source material, Project Hail Mary is a novel by Andy Weir, the same author who wrote The Martian. The movie adaptation is coming in March, and this LEGO set is based on that film version. I actually had to read the book to fully understand what's going on with this set. I'll keep spoilers to a minimum, nothing beyond what you've probably already seen in the trailers, but some context is unavoidable. In this video I will show you how the set works, and we'll decide together whether this is basically a Technic set in disguise. And later, I want to talk about a very strange anomaly, something that's probably more related to the movie than to LEGO itself, but it's clearly visible in the model. We get the usual 18+ black box design. This time the subtle green glow actually makes sense, and I will come back to that later. As you see, we'll build the Hail Mary starship on a rather tricky stand, and we also get a few key characters from the story. The back of the box shows the ship from the movie, highlights some features, and lists the dimensions of the LEGO model, so let's open it up. The set has 830 pieces, the price is €110 or $100, which is a surprisingly big regional difference, and it will be available from the 1st of March. For local prices and pre-order options, check the link below. Inside the box we get 6 numbered bags, 1 unnumbered bag with a few Technic elements, and the instructions, no sticker sheet this time. The manual includes some background information about the movie, a nice close-up of the ship, and a few words from the design team about the development of the LEGO model. Looking at the part list, there are no brand new parts, just recolors, so let's start building. We begin with one of the main characters, Ryland Grace. The minifigure has a printed torso and legs with nice detailing all around. There's a second facial expression, an extra hairpiece, and a couple of accessories. One of them is a transparent tie with a printed tape measure, which has real significance in the story. His stand has a layered structure with clips on all sides. It's an interesting solution. In the end, 3 sides are covered with black traffic sign elements for a clean finish. The middle section is a snot assembly built around a large transparent printed piece. This represents the wall made of different materials between the two characters. Now let's talk about our alien hero Rocky. His core element is a steering wheel piece introduced earlier this year in a botanical set, and it turns out to be absolutely perfect here. Rocky has 5 movable limbs and a printed dish element on top. He also comes with accessories, a special scanner and a tablet-like device that translates visual data into textured information he can perceive. The second stand mirrors the first, allowing you to recreate the scene where they communicate through the wall in the tunnel between the two spaceships. Then we move on to the main structure, and things are getting interesting. The core of this next assembly already looks quite technical. We are mixing studied and studless Technic parts, although at this point the function isn't obvious yet. Some sections could have used reinforcement earlier, a few elements kept popping off while adding surrounding parts, but once the brackets and beams are locked in, it becomes much sturdier. There's some funky LEGO geometry here. It actually reminded me of the Lion Knight's castle techniques. This will form the base of the entire mechanism. I checked some early reviews, and many people said that most of this build is Technic. So far it wasn't more than what we usually see in an icon's car, but now it becomes serious. That little icon in the instructions is there for a reason. If you are not familiar with large Technic turntables, this is the moment where you need to hear that click when you press them together properly. They should rotate freely afterwards, and you should never plan on separating them again. This large circular element in lime might look out of place, but there's a story reason for the color. According to the manual, it reflects the color of an important planet. Honestly, any other color available might have looked just as funky. This is probably the most complex Technic step in the set. Several elements need precise alignment before being secured with cross axles. We add more beams and pins, and then insert a long gear rack that can slide back and forth. Underneath, a large gear connects to the rack. Then we build an extension driven by a small 10 bevel gear. Now the main drive components are in place. This is where the input will happen. We add the printed display plug and the crank. The last key element is a knob gear mounted on a friction pin so it doesn't spin freely. Now let's see how it works. When I rotate the crank, the gear pushes the rack outward. At the same time, the knob gear is gradually turned by about 90 degrees as the rack extends. Once the rack reaches its endpoint, the internal gearing prevents further extension, and the entire assembly begins rotating instead. Initially, the motion isn't perfectly smooth, but once the full ship weight is added, it improves significantly. And with that, it's time to build the spaceship itself. There are plenty of small details here. The central printed cylinder connects to the red cross-section on the stand. We are not done with Technic yet. Alignment is important, especially before the system panels start enclosing everything. More printed elements, always welcome, and then the large rocket modules. Pay attention to the order of printed and unprinted cylinders. Colorful Technic subassemblies support the outer shells from multiple directions. Two identical engine modules attached to the core, while the third has a slightly different front section. These final assemblies use a lot of grill slopes, 40 in total. At first glance they look like solar panels, but the ship doesn't really need those. Most likely they represent radiators to dissipate heat. And just like that, we are done. The small character scenes can attach to the front, and the central section stores neatly in the back. With the added weight, the mechanism now works very well. The ship stays stable during extension, the crew module rotates precisely 90 degrees until the end, and once it reaches its end position, the entire structure rotates smoothly. It works nicely in reverse as well. And that's essentially the play feature. This is primarily a display set, the Hail Mary and the two key characters of the story, with one pretty clever mechanical trick. Now that we finished the build, I think we can agree this is a Technic heavy set, even if the final result hides it quite well. From the front you barely see the mechanism. The lime ring makes more sense once you know the story. From the back, however, everything is exposed, and honestly, I don't think that's a bad thing. If you are interested in the mechanics, it's great to observe. In terms of building experience, I would say roughly half is pure Technic. Considering the piece count, it feels like building a slightly more complex Speed Champion set combined with something like a mid-sized Technic truck like this one. If you think you can handle these sets for kids, this one will not be a challenge either. No stickers, only prints, which is a surprising but welcome development in the 18+ range, slowly catching up to LEGO City. The price difference between the US and Europe is unusual. Today, $100 is about 85 euros, which is much less than 110 for sure. People in the US who usually miss European retailer discounts will now get them directly from LEGO. So, is it worth the price? That depends. If you enjoy a mixed Technic system experience and appreciate the mechanical functions hidden inside the display model, you will probably like it. But realistically, you need to be a fan of the book, the movie, or maybe Ryan Gosling to really want this set. Personally, I think the retro radio handled the Technic system balance slightly better, with more surprises. But if you enjoyed that one and you are interested in Project Hail Mary, you won't be disappointed here. For everyone else, this could be a great gateway into more mechanical LEGO builds, though you might want to wait for a discount. Now, let me switch gears and talk about something that's been bothering me ever since I read the book and saw this LEGO set. This is a LEGO focused channel, so this topic may seem a bit out of place. However, if you are a science fiction fan, I invite you to watch and share your thoughts and speculations. This illustration is from the book. Jay from Jay's Brick blog kindly allowed me to use the photo from his review. In the book's original concept, the crew module sits on top of the engines with vertical floors. Artificial gravity during acceleration is created by constant thrust, about 1.5 g for half the journey, then the ship turns around and decelerates with the same thrust, maintaining gravity in the same direction. The floor is still the floor. Now, the entire complicated setup shown on the second page is required when the spaceship arrives at its destination. The main thrusters are off, but the crew needs artificial gravity to conduct experiments. The crew module detaches, gets extended on these ropes, rotates 180 degrees, and the entire ship spins to create artificial gravity through centripetal force. The 180-degree rotation ensures the floor remains the floor as the outward force now replaces engine thrust. This is a rather complicated solution, but it makes sense in the book. Now the LEGO set is different. The designer confirmed that this setup is based on a movie. So here the crew module only rotates 90 degrees until the endpoint. This makes much less sense. In fact, I could not figure out how this is supposed to work at all. If acceleration and deceleration gravity works along the ship's axis, the floor layout has to match the original concept in the book. But with only a 90-degree rotation, the floor would effectively become a wall during spin gravity. Even worse, as the ship rotates, gravity wouldn't stay perpendicular to the floor across the entire module in this configuration. To properly maintain equal forces, the axis of rotation should be aligned differently, as shown here, but that still would not solve the problem of switching the floor to a wall, which was successfully eliminated by the solution from the book. So yes, that was my short conceptual rant. We will find out in about a month how the movie interprets this and why they changed it. Maybe there's a clever cinematic solution. Until then, let me know your theory, why the change, how will the movie solve the physics problem? And yes, I know there is a strong fiction element in science fiction, but this story is praised as hard science fiction with extensive calculations and lots of simulated science, so I expect the movie to provide a proper explanation to this. And of course, let me know what you think about the set itself, the build, the Technic system balance, the functionality. Let's talk about it in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe with notifications as more exciting LEGO videos are coming soon. See you next time, bye bye.